Well, hello, my YouTube friends. It is beginning of the year, so I am back with another annual layout update. This time, 9 years since I have started my current Waterkloof layout. Just about everything is finished except some scenery needs completion, but electrically and signaling, everything is running and working. Uh, but I've also started doing something new, and that is to make some small dioramas that I sell at craft markets where my wife does jewelry. So there's one that I did for Christmas, Father Christmas, and some reindeer, and then the dioramas itself. The first one is the drunken fisherman, and of course it will tell a story. There we see the figure, and if you watch closely, his one leg is missing, and there's the reason why. A crocodile had a run-in with him, or other way around, he had a run-in with the croc, and so he lost part of his leg, so he is downing his sorrows in the bottle. The second diorama is called the overeager undertaker. There you can see him, wheelbarrow, grave already dug, and the coffin waiting. And it is waiting for one of these three guys who are involved in a shootout. And again, you can see there's a bottle involved. And the last or penultimate diorama is the bird watchers, and they are rowing down the river and see how many birds you can help them spot. There's the two guys in their canoes, and if you look closely, there's a bird up in the tree, and there's one a pigeon. Focusing on it now, there's a crow at the back of the diorama. In the river, there's a duck following them, and there's a stork that has just landed, and there's another bird up in the tree. So altogether 6 birds in this little diorama that they have to spot. The last diorama is a scrapyard scene, and let's see what the story is here. There's a guy that hit a pothole and he's busy repairing a flat tire, and that is a guy bringing a lot of bicycle spares to the scrapyard to exchange for some cash, and he's coming in a donkey cart. And in the scrapyard itself, there's some scrap vehicles and a forklift and some pallets and what seems to be the remains of a windmill. And in the layout itself, since I've been doing the dioramas, the layout work has been a little bit slower, but in East London, only 2 things have changed. One is the motive power that does the shunting in the East London Harbour is now the 040 with a tender that used to be on duty at Allows at the car factory. It is now being used at the East London Harbour. And the other thing is the fisherman has now got a friend, but he also seemed to be more interested in quenching his thirst than he is in actually fishing, while the proper fisherman, you can see his rod is bending under the weight and he's actually got a spare rod there. If we move on from East London, the next station is Waterkloof. Again, very little happened here that is visible. The only visible change is the policeman, railway policeman, that was common on the South African railways. And they, I think, was up to 1982 or 86. They amalgamated. The other change is a brand new dispatches control panel, and that is the reason why at Allows the new turnout had to be controlled from the dispatches panel as well. And this is the connection, so the breech can still lift up across the garage door, but that little plug-in helps to get the wiring much shorter and still allows the breech to lift. In alloys, there is quite a few changes. I've added a signal at this new turnout that was added the year before last, December 2024. And because of that, quite a few changes had to happen. The signal is there, but then also there used to be a scrap hopper that was stationed at the ready track, and no longer can it stand there because the ready track is now a passing siding. So that had to move to the fuel depot, and the fuel depot's track was too short, so that had to be lengthened so that both the hopper and the fuel tanker could park in there, and that has been done. And while I was doing that, I also added some more scenery to that specific area. You can see there's now some paved area in front. The little guard hut has been painted, and the ballast is extended with the new piece. It still needs to be painted. And I also added some more ballast to the double slip that is just off that area. So there's the double slip with some new ballast, also still awaiting painting. So this is the changes in alloys, and also the motive power in alloys have changed because there's now much less space. The 040 shunting locomotive that did service at the Disaster mine has now been transferred to the car factory at Allows, and the mine sports a new locomotive, but we'll see that when we get there. We're actually moving to that area next, and that is the area of power. And here we can see small changes as well. The catenary has been slowly coming together and being added. The masts have been added, and that will add operating interest, as electric units may now only operate on the layout under wire in areas where the catenary is installed. That will necessitate switching out of motive power either to steam or diesel, and that will make operating much more interesting, because from Bloemfontein power, Allows to Waterkloof will be under wire, and then the rest will not be. Also, there's been 2 mountaineers that have been added to the scenery, plus the original 2 guys hiking and mountaineering are still there. Sorry for the focus, there it's a bit better now. And there's the new shunting locomotive that has been added to the mine, just doing its running around, going through its paces, and it will go back and connect up to the rough timber and explosive trucks that are in the mine at the moment, bring them out and run around a little bit just to show off what it can do. And being 8-wheel pickup and 8-wheel drive, it does not stall on the crossover as the little steam loco used to do until I added a keep alive to the steam loco. But this one does not seem to need the keep alive. It picks up power on all 8 wheels. And it is nice and slow, but it can also speed up a little bit. So a very nice shunting locomotive. It will be going back into the mine, showing the operation of the DCC control turnout via a manual push button that will give the decoder a signal to change that specific turnout. Or I can also operate the turnout from a tablet with the correct app, or from a cell phone with the correct app installed on it. So quite handy when you are walking around and you need to bring a train in or out. You can just on the app throw the turnout from power, we move on to Bloemfontein, where also very little has changed, except for some scenery that have changed. And the beginning of catenary can also be seen on the power side of Bloemfontein. Another railway policeman has been added, as well as a trash can with the garbage bag next to it. Here we use black bags in our trash cans, so the black bags gets collected, and the policemen seem to be thinking there's somebody hiding in the trash can. And there's the catenary masts temporarily put in place just to get the spacing correct and see how many more I needed. And there are some more masts that have been printed awaiting painting and thereafter installation on the layout. From Bloemfontein we move to Waterkloof, a small Karoo town, and here some major scenery changes happened. A friend of mine printed a new 3D station building, or 3D printed, and it's based on Graafrenet station building. And this is now the station at Waterkloof. It used to have a very small little scratch-built station that I was not very happy with. And this one looks much better. It still needs to be detailed inside, but at least it gives the idea of a little Karoo station. Then I also had to rebuild the optical detector, and you can see on the left hand side in between the blades of the turnout there's a little thing that I will hold my hand over, and then it will switch the signal back to danger. And on the rolling stock side, I'm still working on the Class 16E steam loco with all the craft markets with my wife. I did not have enough time to finish it, but I did manage to finish the Class 8Z locomotive. That had been retired due to a problem with the tender drive, and then I found another locomotive with the exact same tender that I could just swap the tenders around, and now the 8 class is back on track. Nice little loco, running quite well, but not a fantastic puller as the tender is quite light. And then I also ventured into designing and printing Clarkson Vapor steam heating cars, although these are not highly detailed. There's the chassis. Unfortunately, the truss rods did not print very well, so I removed them altogether, and I will probably add them made from metal a bit later. Handrails, etc. will also still be added later. And there's one that I printed previously, and it is painted in the color scheme that I was used to, with the yellow stripe and the brown color that the Transcaroos were painted in. I also printed some steel coils for loads on my steel coil truck. And then another thing I did during the past year was to update the operating schedule. As you can see, there's a much better spread of trains. They're not all concentrated on the top or the bottom half, or all in one station. So I trust you enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends, and please subscribe to the channel.